many thanks to our customers and end users and system integrators from many countries today. It's a worldwide presentation. It's not only an English presentation, so we'll make a try about speaking slowly for non-native speaking English. So we get some people from England, Scotland, South Africa, Ukraine, Turkey, Spain, Portugal. And please let me introduce you, Mr. Chris Cox, even if most of you already know him well. So Chris is in charge of the technical stuff for Codeware international activities. He's based near Manchester. And Chris is working for years, for more than 20 years with Codeware, and knows Panorama as well, because since the first versions of the products. Chris is a part of the success for the Panorama in UK and abroad. Is a technical salesman, and thanks you, Chris, for attending as a corporate speaker today for this webinar. And I give you a hand for this webinar, and I'll be the man in the shadow to help you in bringing this webinar to our customer. So let's start.
Thank you, Julian. Hopefully, excellent. Julian has handed over to me, so thank you, Julian. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Julian. Today is all about Panorama Suite 2020, which has been a release that we've just made onto the market. We're going to go through some of the functions and features, and today is just an overview. So I'm going to use a mixture of PowerPoint and a little bit of the demonstration application to actually demonstrate some features. Anybody that wants some more information about what we're doing, then please contact us afterwards. Contact us through the chat, contact us on the website contact page, or for those of you that have our email addresses, just email us directly. We'd be quite happy to set some sessions up, direct one-to-one sessions with your teams, where we can have a much more interactive discussion with them. So today I'm going to go through and discuss about the new alarm window.
Yeah, Chris, can you share your screen, please? Because you didn't start to share your screen, so they don't see you.
We're going to show you some of the new alarm window. We're going to introduce the workstation component, why we have it, what we're doing with it. We'll talk a little bit about cybersecurity. Talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done with Panorama H2. Tell you what's new from Panorama Mobile, and then just some other elements that we've added in that people may well be interested in. So, for those of you that are not overly familiar with Panorama, just let me position what it is, what the platform includes, and what you would normally use them for. Panorama Suite is made up of 3 basic elements with 3 separate functions. We have Panorama Com, which is a front-end communications system. This brings the power of Panorama's server, Panorama's data acquisition, when you don't need the visualization and you don't need a full SCADA from this type of functionality. It allows data to be acquired and to be offered using OPC-DA, OPC-UA directly into a database, into a DCS system or another third-party system, even a third-party SCADA system it can sit in front of. Panorama is generally known for its SCADA, and Panorama E2 is the SCADA element of the Panorama platform. It's what most people use and most people talk about when they mention Panorama. It's a full client server design of SCADA, and it's used for hypervision as well as SCADA, and includes not just thick clients, so control room type graphic capabilities, but also Panorama Mobile that allows you to put the SCADA functionality, or at least a subset of it, into the hand of field operators. A few years ago, we introduced Panorama H2 Historian. This is a data historian product. It can be used with the rest of the Panorama products, or it can be used by itself. It basically brings a set of business analysis and business level reporting to the data that would come into it, generally from a Panorama E2 system. It's the first of our cloud-based solutions, so it can be on-premise and cloud. And it has a new energy option that my colleagues in France have been trialing, and we're interested in some international customers who would like to use this. We'd like to get involved with you, so please do make yourselves known on the chat if that's what you'd like to do. No matter which of the products you use, there's a common tool set. There's two main tools that people use. SLP is the shared license provider. This allows you to license machines for running Panorama. And Panorama Studio, which allows you to build Panorama applications, whether it's for deployment into any of these three products, or a combination of them, or all three together. And it allows you to build applications and deploy those applications. And there's a whole set of other tools around for debugging what's going on and so on that our technical support team. The updates for Panorama Suite 2020 have touched all of the Panorama products. So there's things that we put in natively into the product that literally have a reflection on all of the products, as well as some of the products having specific new features, which is what I mentioned with the previous slide. So let's get on and have a look at the new alarm window. The new alarm window in Panorama, we've had an alarm window for a long, long time. And we decided it was time to refresh it, bring some a fresh look and feel to it. For those of you who are familiar with Panorama, the idea is that we bring some elements for the end users, so that we make it easily and more readable interface for the end users. So we've modernized that. We've added some new technology, so we've introduced some new features, things that you couldn't do before, and I'll be demonstrating these in a moment, actually in the application. For systems integrators, we bring just one way to configure, and we've reduced the implementation time and the things that you have to do in order to do the implementation. So we've introduced things like checkboxes for operators. We've introduced pull-down menus and so on and so forth. I'll be going through those in a moment. This is less error, less testing for the systems integrator, and hence the alarm object compared to the previous three alarm objects are a little bit leaner. So the three modes that we had, we still have with the new one. We have the display of current alarms, so this replaces the former alarm window. This is what people would normally use to view their lists of alarms. We have the history running in on-stream mode. For those of you who find that a little bit abstract, this is the sort of type of display that you would use on a safety system or a plant system, where you wanted a sequence of event history, a real-time update and sequence of event history. And then there's the history, which replaces the former history window. And this is the sort of thing that you use for after the event analysis. So the three modes are now in one alarm window. It makes it simpler, easier to use, and gives you the ability to change mode at runtime. Just one note that if you are changing mode at runtime, particularly if you're having a current alarm window, please make sure that if you switch that to a history alarm window, for example, you need some indication on your screen outside of the alarm window, just to make sure that you can see new alarms coming in. So operators would need that. So now we have a new improved design. You can see here that we've added a top banner to the alarm here. We've added a drag and drop sort field, and onto the header we've added these little elements to do filtering. Plus, we've taken some ideas from Excel so that you can actually tap on the top headers to reorder the columns. So again, you can we've added this interaction and these type of menus for driving the system. Just one note on the quick filtering. If you look down here, if we type temp in the quick filtering, I'll be doing this later in a reel, it'll actually pick up anything in any field that matches what you type in their filter, and it's a direct interaction. All of these fields are optional, so the items will still work as they worked in your previous applications. However, beyond this interactivity, we've added some new features such as being able to resize the columns, change the column order, add in checkboxes for multi-selection, and those type of things just make it much easier for the operator to interact and have the interface that he wants to the alarm information. The design that we have brought along has been a little bit easier. We've added some new features of alarm grouping. So you see this element here. We've got the priority field that's just been dropped here. So there's an automatic sort now on the field by priority, and it puts it into little groups. And you can do that with any of the fields that you've got in your header. Again, I'll be demonstrating that. You only just need to enable that, and it's a native functionality within the window. Lots of people did file exporting from alarm windows. We got that feedback from things like training courses and consultancy sessions. So where you used to have a button on the toolbar, we've given you a native button to do that. We've completely rewritten the code, so in doing that we've increased the performance by a factor of about 3 or 4, particularly in the retrieval of the data history. So it's a faster type element than it was before. We still support things like the message on 2 lines, which we've supported for a long time. And for those of you that are not familiar with this particular feature, it allows you to have the main heading as you would normally have in an alarm window, but then use some of the alarm fields to have a subheading. So you can have a different style or a narrower field for the alarms. And we've got full forwards compatibility. So when you bring an application from a previous version of Panorama into Panorama Suite 2020, we automatically build you a new alarm window using the new alarm window functions and features. However, we set it in a compatibility mode. So we set all the actions so that you get exactly the same look and feel. So when you transfer to Panorama Suite 2020, you don't automatically get the new features. You'll get what you had before. That means that you don't have to go and turn things off because you don't want them. In fact, it's the opposite. You turn things on afterwards that you do want. And we can show you some things that you can turn on that give you some quick features with the operators. So it's doing that by going to a demonstration. For those of you that are familiar with Panorama, then you can see that we ship with Panorama what we call the demonstration application. It's a technical demonstration using a simulation because there's no PLCs, and you can run this without a Panorama license, so there's no I/O to it. It allows you to have a look at the Panorama functions, which is the reason I've come and used this today. But while we're here, I might as well show you that there's also an ASM demonstration in there. ASM is the abnormal situation management. So if you want to know how to do that in a Panorama, how to achieve those styles, have a look at that area of the tech application, and you'll be able to see that. There's some business applications in there. You'll find how to do simple batch logging and batch reporting using Office and so on. There's a pumping station application, so you can see how to do telemetry type applications and the sort of interface you can have with maps and so on. And we ship a library of components with Panorama, and what we've done is we have a section in the application here that literally allows you to interact with those. You can see what functionality they have and see which ones you want to choose. So please do have a play with that if you haven't already. Let's go into the Panorama functions. Hello machine, are you reacting to? Yes, we are. Okay, my machine's just a little bit slow, so I've got quite a lot of things operating on it. So I've gone into this particular area. You can see immediately at the bottom of the screen that we have an alarm banner. You can see there's no header on it, so we can't have any interactivity with the operator with it. You can see that it's the old style. In fact, it's the old style plus one element that we've added, and that is the little line just to separate her, because we've introduced a little line separator. It's just a little tick box that you put in the configuration to turn it on, and away it goes. So that's the only thing that we've done in the modification for here. So that's what your alarm windows would look like when you transfer them from a previous application. For navigation around here, I'm going to use the standard Panorama menu item. I don't know whether you're all familiar with this, but it allows you to explore around your graphic views that you've got within your system. I'm just going to look for the alarm pages. If I can spell alarm, A-R-M, there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the alarm look page. So this is just a series of alarm windows here that just show you how the same alarm can be displayed in different ways, using different colors, different sets, different flashing, and so on. So if I just generate some alarms here, this allows me to just simulate some alarms within my system. So here we go. I'll let you look at the presentations, but what we've done is we've added on the headers. So these already had headers, and we've enabled the little filters on these and the ability just to click on each of the fields to restart them, which are native features in the new alarm. So, for example, I could come along here and I could select that I wanted to just look at priority 1 alarms, because that's what we did. So that's a new feature. You don't have to do anything to set that up. You just enable it. So here we have just the priority 1. If I want to clear that, select all, reapply the filter, and away we go. So if I acknowledge some alarms, so I acknowledge these two. I'm an operator. I've acknowledged some. There's some new ones coming. There's some I haven't yet dealt with. I want to know which ones I want to deal with. So a quick restart on the alarm state will give me all the present ones at the top. So again, interactivity for the user is increased with the new alarm window. Let me show you some other things with the new alarms. Let's go to the current alarm filter. So first of all, for those of you that are more familiar with Panorama and not having the interactivity, you're still fully capable of driving the alarms with buttons along the side or elements around the alarm. So for example, I could just apply the filter for machine 1, and again, it works. So anything that you had before still works in exactly the same way. I'm just going to cancel that filter out, and effectively I'm just going to do exactly the same thing in here. So without having those buttons, without having to set them up, machine 1, and away we go. We get the same thing, but now we're inside the functions of the alarm, and my clear would be here. So I can, I showed you before the quick filtering. You can enable or disable any of these functions, and you can do that not just in configuration but at runtime. If I type temp in here, it gives me everything in the alarm where there's the letters TEMP. So again, I can clear that out. And in fact, if I don't want the operator to have that, or certain operators to have it and certain ones not to runtime, you can see that we can enable or disable elements at runtime. And the same for these little items here, and in fact the same for the top bar. So you can see here I switch the filtering on and off. Let's have a look at the alarm grouping. This is the new stuff now, which is in the field. You can see we've already come into here and we've filtered by a machine. So again, where I was showing you two techniques before, just to filter by a machine. Here we've done it by taking a machine and just dropping it into this little area here. Which is a new feature. It reorders so that we can now look by machine. So instead of this time having only the machine 1 alarms available to me, I've still got all the alarms, but they're grouped together by a machine type. And in fact, I could, for example, put these by the equipment as well, so the type of equipment that is generating the alarm. So in machine 1, here's all the level alarms, here's all the temperature alarms, here's all the valve 2 alarms. So if I'm a machine 1 operator and I don't care what's happening currently on machine 2, I can still have my alarm. I can use the same alarm window as everybody else. I can go up to any workstation. It doesn't have to be configured for me. And I can have all the details. And notice here, we have some statistics and some counters, and the same on the bottom. This is a new introduction, and you can enable and disable these. And as I think the next screen shows some different ones along the bottom. Other things we can do is we can reorder dynamically. So here's now all the level alarms and then by machine. So if I'm just interested in operating on level alarms or just say temperature alarms. So here's my machine temperature alarms and the ones that currently exist. So hopefully that's giving you the gist. And one more thing I want to show you are the column management. This is where here we just want to end up with, say, the operator is getting a little bit confused by too much information that he's got to deal with. He just wants to simplify a life for himself. So basically, we just want to take the alarm label and have date, alarm label. That field's a bit big, so let's adjust the size of that because that's something else we can do. And if I allow column hiding, the button wasn't there, and I can take away priority and machine and equipment, and I've just simplified the information for me, the operator. So they're the type of things that we can do new within the new alarm window. So it's a big main feature that's in here, and people who want to know more about that, we've got many more things that we can sell you, show you and sell you, of course, and we can have a separate interactive session with them. So let's go back to the presentation. And anybody's got any questions about what I've gone through there, please put them on the chat. So onto the workstation components. Again, another big new main feature for Panorama Suite 2020. For those of you that don't know, Panorama is an object-oriented configuration tool, and we call the objects in our Panorama components. These normally represent something in the field. They're what's called functional components, and everything is built around them. A functional component would be a digital representation of the things that you want to do at the SCADA level for something in the field. That something could be a valve, a pump, a machine, a production line. You can set up these how you want. We're bringing this notion now to just the workstation level. So this effectively allows us to bring some simplification of the way that we go about producing a user interaction with the system and the user's experience. So it enables us to reuse graphical components beyond just being able to cut and paste them. And it also allows a different design concept that you can bring within your teams. You can literally separate the teams to work on the graphical user interface using the workstation components, and then you can combine them later with the functional components which are being done by another team. So it brings some different ways of working to Panorama, different ways of how you can use Panorama around your team. So it's not just the fact that it can be used to accelerate things. So let's have a look at the workstation component itself. What it is, it's basically everything that you understand about a functional component we've brought to just the workstation level. So this means things like navigation, user management, and base graphical elements you can separate off from the functional and not just have them as simple drawings. This allows a better standardization of objects, so reusability or a more easy use of reusability across an application, and certainly a much better usability across different types of applications. So the generic graphic button, what the component brings to it as well as it continuing to be the graphical representation, we add some behaviors. I've got another slide coming up to do the behaviors, but I'd just like to say that we at Codera with Panorama Suite 2020, we've delivered a new reference library application called Ref HMI that we've built some workstation components in that you can use. I'll show you some in the demo in a moment. And basically, we're looking for some more input into this, so people who are going on training courses, people contacting technical support, or your sales engineer, people who are interfacing with our experts. Please do let us know what you would like to see in this. We'd like to use the information from the Panorama community and develop this for you. And remember that this base reference HMI, even though we're doing it, so it has our look and feel and behaviors, you can have some input to that, but you can also use that as a base for your own. And that would separate one integrator from another on how the look and feel of the user interface would be used for an end user. So it gives different partners a differentiation. So let's have a look at the main principles. Basically, if we look at adding behaviors that we would normally want within a component, if you just take a base graphic object, today we would cut and paste that to make an auto manual button, an on-off button, and an interactive button. And when we cut and paste it, the data associated with the button is the same, even though the graphics are graphic 1 and graphic 2. And so the notion of the workstation object, the workstation component, brings, when we cut and paste it, it will produce an instance. So it will produce a unique set of data for that button. And whilst a simple type of button like this may not benefit greatly, when you make these buttons more and more complex, so for example, if we add some interaction, that when we interact with the mouse with this button, so we end up with a highlight to show the operator that he's actually got this button currently active, that would use a piece of local data in the button, which you would have to reconfigure if you just cut and pasted it. But effectively, when you have a component, you set it once in the component, and that's it. It works everywhere, and it's unique for every button. So hopefully that's given you an idea of why we've brought in the principle of workstation components. And the workstation components, they can have various different things in them. It's usually a little window there, so just move that off the graphic. It can not only have the base animations in there, you can define the user interactions, you can have some calculations, let's move my little window, some calculations in there, so you could have the user hover the mouse over, for example, and have an automatic display of something that was in Celsius in Fahrenheit. So you can do things like that with a workstation component, which would be far more complex to do without it. You can add your user permissions, etc., and anything else that you want to put in. So you could add your navigational elements so that user components can much more easily click together. So this makes the notion of of a user component to help you to modularize your HMI, and then to aggregate that back together as you want it. It allows this extensive reuse and this standardization, and particularly one that you can more easily maintain, and you can evolve for yourself, and you can have your own unique design with it. So let's have a look at that within a demo, and this is what the workstation component brings. So let me go back to my alarm screen that I showed you before. What I was explaining before, these buttons here are actually workstation components from our ref HMI, and you notice that as I move the mouse in, they enlarge a little, and the text bolds. That is takes a local piece of data. So as I roll in, the action of the mouse rolling in sets the data. That's how the button knows to change its size and make its text bold. So that would be part of a workstation component. And just by having that in the workstation component and now using this around the application, that behavior will be unique. So when I roll in this one, it only highlights this one. When I roll in this one, it only highlights this one. When I roll in this one, it only highlights this one. And so that's one of the benefits of the workstation component. If we have a look in the trends area, there's some more. If I have a look at the real-time trend here, this in itself is quite a complex object to use. I'm just going to use a feature in Panorama where we can just hop over to Panorama Studio. So whatever view you're in, you can say, take me to this in a Panorama Studio. So I'm just going to do that. So here we go. Let me just move this out of the way. So here we are. That's view 11, as you can see here from the element. And what we're showing you there, this element here, as you can see on the right-hand side, is this element called graph. So if I click on that, you can see there's lots and lots and lots of different properties here that you can set up. And some of these you may want to give, or to make available, sorry, to the operator, so that he can change them, or he or she can change them at runtime. And that's effectively what we've done in the Panorama demonstration application. And to do that, we've embedded the chart object. You see, I don't know whether you can see the detail here on your screens, but there's a new little icon which is a workstation component. And we've made this workstation component actually handle up to 8 trends, which are fairly typical for what most people want to use. So you've got a workstation component here now that we deliver, which ready to go for your trending. You can just put your trend data in here, and it works. Full stop. If you wanted more append, you just take a copy of this one into your own library and add some more appends. What we've also done is we've created another control item, and if I click on that, you can see that this controls the graph in graph process, so it actually controls what's down here in this particular object. And I'll just go back to it. I selected the color palette. Okay, so here we go. I've got the color palette selected, and what didn't happen was you didn't see this area. So we've this is now just a small control that we've built that enables just the properties to be changed for the color of the graph. Likewise, here's one that controls the properties of the legends. Here's the one that controls the properties of the time periods, what's on the axes, how they operate on the X and Y axes, and the additional axis control of which trend is operating on the left axis and the right axis. So lots of different things you can do with the graph object, and we've simplified these. And in fact, what we've actually done, if I go, hopefully when I change screens this time, you will still follow me. Okay, with this screen, we've got some graphics just positioned just off screen. And we've got a little button here, which is not a HMI object. It's just a dynamic object in the screen, which will actually pull that graphic and reposition it, and will rescale the rest of the screen. So you can now see we've got some controls here that we've now given as an operator control panel, just using from the bits that we've got from the HMI object. So when we were saying we were looking for input from the Panorama community as to what you want to do, the type of features that you want, this is the type of thing that we're after from you. So, and if you want to know how all that works, you can go and have a look in the main application. So, okay. Quite happy to set up some extra one-to-one sessions to go into more detail of the workstation object, how you could use it, and so on. So hopefully that's introduced the two main big features for Panorama Suite 2020, what you can do with them, what they can do, and how you can interact back with a coder to drive what those features are as well. Moving on to a different area now, on to cybersecurity. We've had cybersecurity, or we've been doing work with cybersecurity for several versions since 2017. We've released some, but in fact we've been doing some work for the past 5 years with cybersecurity. Our view on cybersecurity, if we look at threats and the challenges to the industry and to the type of installations that we supply systems integrators to supply to end users. The general observation about this is that these cyber attacks can have very destructive impacts. For control systems, people generally don't want to steal data because there's no things like financial data, which you would find in a banking system. But what they would try and do is stop the system working or make the system work differently. I guess lots of you have seen the film The Italian Job, where the traffic light system gets hacked and all mayhem is created in Turin while the robbers get out the back with the loot. So that type of denial of service attack is quite real, even though that was film fiction. The general targets for these attacks are critical national infrastructures. People want to turn off the water, they want to turn off the electricity. But it's not just those different, those critical types of industries. It's every type of industry. People would be just happy to turn off the local companies' production systems. So don't feel that it's just for critical national infrastructures, although that's where a lot of the focus is these days. So the goal really is having preserving the integrity of the system to prevent operational losses and to maintain the company's competitiveness. And also, what isn't on the slide there, I feel, is also the trust in the company's brand. So the challenge for suppliers, particularly suppliers like us and systems integrators, is basically to try and overcome these, to listen to what the state authorities have to say about where attacks are taking place, to take their advice on what should be done to defend, to make businesses more aware, although businesses are a lot more aware these days than they were a few years ago about the impact of cybersecurity. And what we're finding now is also that insurers are beginning to ask questions of businesses to insure the businesses, to actually look at to give them some insurance. So have they taken steps to prevent themselves being attacked as a business? So what have we done? What have we done as a company? Well, we've been harping on for the past 12 months about the fact that we've done a lot of work, and we've been working with ANSSI. ANSSI are the French government's cyber agency. So these are, if you want, the French's spy network, a bit like GCHQ here in the UK. And they have a public face, which is called ANSSI, like we have a public face for our one here in the UK, which is called the NCSC, the National Cybersecurity Centre. And I would imagine that similar type of structure exists throughout the world. We've been working with ANSSI to understand the way that integrators use our product and the way end users have those systems deployed with a deployment of servers and a deployment of workstations, that footprint how that would be attacked and how we can prevent attacks on that, so how we can reduce footprints. So we've put those changes into the product over the previous versions, and we've been certified by a third-party company who have been authorized by ANSI to carry out the relevant pen tests, and we passed those. We got the certificate from ANSI for the product to say it's great, it's wonderful, it can be used on France's critical national infrastructures, and we are the first ever SCADA platform that ANSI have certified. But we're not stopping there. We've got a first level certification. We want to go on and get the second level certification. So those changes are into the product today, and we're looking at putting some more changes in and then going through a new pen testing regime to get the higher level, the higher security of the second level. And ANSI are talking about doing a third level, and we'll follow that one as well. So you can see we've developed a culture within Codra that we really want to do everything we can for cybersecurity. In terms of a new certification, which is called the qualification, ANSI has just awarded us the qualification, and that means that we can be a trusted supplier. And that means we can be recommended by ANSI to major companies in France. And that's that they can put their trust in us. And that's because we are effectively a cyber-first company. So everything that we do, we think about how cyber attacks are going to take place. So even how we do our business within Codra, the way we develop software, we develop it with the smallest footprint, and so on and so forth. And we can guarantee that what we deliver to you, the systems integrator, and then hence what you deliver to the end user, of an out-of-the-box Panorama installation won't be full of viruses and be infecting your systems. So oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, I'm getting ahead of myself. There we go. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we want to do some next steps, and I'll talk about what we're doing with H2 and how we've extended this the work into H2, ready for the certification in a moment. Okay. Now on to the LTSC. Another aspect of Panorama Suite 2020 is we are introducing the concept of an LTSC. This is a long-term service channel version. This means that we'll give a longer support than we would normally give. So what we do with our Panorama versions at the moment is we support them for 18 months after they have been superseded by the next version. And we generally release new versions between 12 and 18 months. So roughly, a version has a life of about 3 years. We want to extend that for Panorama Suite 2020 and follow some of the examples that Microsoft are doing with Windows. So realistically, this is for people who have isolated or a frozen system, so that they've got Panorama becomes part of a certified environment. They can't readily change the version. They can't readily add security patches, but every now and again they can go in and add these and then make an assessment as to how that affects the certification. So realistically, there'll be no functional updates as we go through the LTSC. So Panorama Suite 2020 will do what it does. You can expect that. So expect no surprises on that one. And we'll only add security additions and some service corrections. So service corrections are where the users have identified some anomalies in our software, and we've corrected them, and we'll do a formal delivery over those like we would with a new version. So it's basically a new version without the new features. And we're probably going to roll this forwards for we're thinking 5-6 years, but it depends upon how we see the maintenance contracts running. In short, 2020 is a good version to get your clients onto, and for end users, it's a good version to be on, because it's going to be around a lot longer and it's going to be supported for a lot longer than previous versions have been. And again, in a few versions' time, we'll take a breather and we'll make another LTSC version. That's the idea going forward. So Panorama H2. What have we done with Panorama H2? With the H2, the H2, just as a reminder for people that don't know what that is, it's our business analysis and reporting tool. So what we've done is we've added an ability that when you add a H2 system to an existing Panorama E2 system, you can take the data from the Panorama E2 archive files and directly import them into your H2 database. It's a function that a number of customers have asked for, and it's a great way of having your old archive data being available on day one when you add your a brand new H2 server to your existing Panorama installation. We've also been playing about with the security. You've heard what I've had to say about cybersecurity. We've put some more security updates in the system, and we are preparing Panorama H2 for going through its pen testing. And so basically those features are in the product at the moment. And this has been driven by having support for H2 not just as an on-premise server, but as a cloud server. And we've added certificates to the web service for the communications between the Panorama E2 and the server, and between the Panorama server and the remote client service. We've added a new administration tool, because with Panorama in the cloud, the administration tool needs to reach to the cloud. And of course, the database is in the cloud, so anybody using SQL access to it will now have to use the web service, and so we've enabled that across the web service. And that's for a cloud-based as opposed to an on-premise-based system. Another thing we've done for Panorama H2 is we brought it under the umbrella of FDA 21 CFR Part 11. Now, for those of you who don't work in the pharmaceutical or the medical device or the food industry, FDA is the American Federal Drugs Administration, and they have a series of titles that they write. They call them titles. So they have a number of titles of their Code of Federal Regulations that people have to adhere to. Part 11 of Title 21 is all about electronic signatures, electronic records, and what you've got to do with them when you replace paper records with electronic versions. And so Panorama has to be able to manage these particular records and the electronic signatures in a way that meets the exact wording of the directive. That's not too much of a work for us to do this. We've remember Panorama has its roots in the nuclear industry, which is a highly regulated industry. So we're quite used to this type of functions and features within Panorama, and having to cope with being in a highly regulated world. But there are some specific functions and features and things that need to be done in a particular way for the 21 CFR Part 11. And so what we've done is the work that we did for Panorama E2 many years ago, we've extended to Panorama H2. And we've enhanced the FAQ that's on the website. The FAQ is a frequently asked question. FAQ 75, which is available for download off the website, that lists all the clauses of the Part 11. We say which ones are relevant to Panorama, and what our recommendations are to follow to be compliant with those regulations. Moving on to Panorama Mobile. Panorama Mobile basically is the mobile app for iOS and Windows. Just a little brief introduction of it. It's a 100% mobile device. It uses the tactile heuristics of mobile devices. So you change pages by swiping. There's a long press, short press, and things like that you don't have. You don't have these features on a Windows mouse driven system. We operate the notifications of things that give you your Facebook updates or your newsstream updates. We utilize that for getting alarms to people, so you don't have to be on and connected to the mobile server in order to receive these. And it's specifically oriented towards iOS and Android devices, so to smartphones and tablets. So it enables us to take Hypervision, SCADA, HMI, whatever you're doing with Panorama, and take that into a more mobile world, onto a smartphones. It enables you to orientate the data that is there for the operator's needs, and instead of giving them the full control room. This allows you to control your bandwidth, particularly where you're on a remote field that hasn't got a great mobile phone signal. But still, you get alarms, indicators, views. You can have technical information there, so these could be wiring diagrams, user manuals, and so on. So, and all in one app. So you don't have to go from app to app to app. Everything that you should need is in the one Panorama mobile app. So the thing that we've, the general use cases for these, is to give somebody some simple KPIs. You want to give the boss some KPIs, just give him a Panorama mobile app. Do not give him a view from the main control room. He can go and do some damage for that. People that do rounds, like the milkman comes and delivers, perhaps an English concept, but basically somebody that goes to a particular geographical location, and then another geographical location, and another geographical location, and that's part of their job. And when they get to those geographical locations, they only want the data for those particular elements. To alert on-call operators, so people who are on call, who are the maintenance team, for example, alert them via notification in the middle of the night that there's something wrong. They can quickly check with the mobile app as to whether they're going to get dressed and go to the site now, or whether it can wait till their shift formally starts in the morning. Remote control operators, people can go to geographic sites and then they can take ownership of control from the central control rooms. They know they've got full control, and then when they finish they can hand it back. And likewise, you can use the same principle but a different concept. Maintenance people who are going to have the heads in machines, they're going to enter electrified buildings. They want to make sure that they're safe to do so, and they can take ownership of making sure that the central control operators are not going to operate the machinery while they're there. So they can stop the operations, they can take ownership, and they can have the operation. So there are typical uses for the Panorama mobile app. Panorama mobile app didn't, in its initial first two releases, have trending. We concentrated on other things which were driven by our customers. And now we've added the trending. So we've got the alarms, we've got the views, we've got the trending. So the main things that you would now expect for a full SCADA operation. We've got a component that allows 5 trends on here for you to hide or view those trends. To make a list of trend displays and be able to select which list you want. To save user preferences, so you can change what you see as a user, and then save that preference, so you can have that next time. You can display real-time trends as well as history trend, and you can select the time range of what you are looking at and how the axes run. So very, very similar interaction to what you can have with the control room setup. We have 2 modes. One for a low bandwidth, where we only allow you to just to view the items, which has a much lower level of interaction, but will work well on a low bandwidth network. And when you have a high bandwidth networks and 4G and the forthcoming 5G, or whether you're on Wi-Fi around your factory and you're using Panorama Mobile in that way, then you can have the full, what we call the dynamic mode, the much higher level degree of interaction with the system. Hopefully that's given you an idea of what Panorama Mobile can be used for, and anybody who wants to know more about that, we're quite happy to set up separate mobile demonstrations and so on. Communications protocols, we've been playing around with these. For telemetry, we've added some more telemetry support for the software devices and certification on those transactions. For people who are in buildings, we've added NAT and PAT, which is the network access translation and the project access table ability with our BACnet. And we are still targeting the BTL certification, which is the big EU certification. That's the BACnet Interest Group Europe certification for our implementation of the BACnet. For IoT, we've added, we formally released the bottom one here, the MQTT support in Panorama Suite 2020, but it has been available as a patch for Panorama Suite 2019. But we've added in the ability to commission, activate, and deactivate things. This is the real new features for Panorama Suite 2020. This allows you to control at any one time what you're bringing across the bandwidth that you bought from your IoT network provider, and the IoT network providers are oriented towards selling you an amount of bandwidth. That's what you buy from them, and basically these. By deactivating things in Panorama allows you to change what you're bringing across the bandwidth, but it doesn't change your bandwidth, so it doesn't change your costs. So if you're looking for a cost-saving exercise, it's not one. And for power systems, we do a lot of work with IEC 61850, which is we're doing a lot of work there with EDF and with GE Grid. And we've just implemented the protocol services, which was delivery for Panorama Suite 2020. Other technical improvements, this is the last slide. I'm going to show you some more information. We've got a silent mode installation. We've got some on-call and messaging features for private PABX support. We've added some features into the scheduling for having common time schedules. We've got a brand new online help, which you should find a little more easier to use. We've used the latest Android SDK for the mobile app release. That means we've got the latest Android cybersecurity features and things like that. We've updated our Chrome support, and we've updated our Oracle and SQL Server support, and many, many, many other things. And so you can see when we go and create a feature within Panorama, that it touches many, many different areas. So the cybersecurity I've talked about across various different areas. And this is one of the key points that we want to make, that when you buy a COTS product, this is the thing that happens. So just in summary, the key points are the alarm window, 3 modes in one, easier to configure, simpler to use. Workstation components, modularize, and brings a new way of design to have a more elaborate UI UX. Allows you to have much more behavior on your standard components. Security-wise, we've improved protocols. We've added additional security around communications. We've added H2 onto cloud and introduced the FDA. And on mobile, we've got the trends. So anybody got any questions for us?
Thanks, Chris, for this presentation. And we will see right now your questions. So I note some questions dealing with the same subject, dealing with the alarm filters. So can you configure predefined alarm filters? I saw also is there a one-click remove all filter for button? Is there a reset option on alarm windows to easily clear the changes that you've made? Can you save a filter type? So there are many features on the new alarm window. You can preset some values, some filtering values. So according to the smart filter text, according to the sorting order and the grouping systems, which can be preset and reset when you remove your filters, your manual filters. And currently that's all. Column headers filters are not yet supported to be managed outside the user interface because of the complexity of the behavior. So we already want to answer to your needs doing a save and a loading of the filters. If you already know Panorama H2, you use it while you use the trend object, as Chris mentioned before. On the trend object, you can save and reload layouts and dispositions, and we'd like to provide this feature too on the alarm window. That will answer to the all of questions about alarm filtering and resetting. Did you note some question, Chris?
No, like I didn't see the chat window, so it's all asking.
So as you said, can the alarm window setting be persisted per screen and per person? Not yet, but we'd like to give you the ability to save and to load runtime the settings of the window.
Yeah, if I can just expand on that one. One of the things is the Panorama community that you have access to is to the entire team of Panorama. And if you've got suggestions like this, please put them forwards to us. It helps you to help us evolve the product in the way that you want to use it.
Yeah, do the mobile alerts have an automated escalation process? I don't think so. If you use alarm windows on mobile phone and alarm notifications, I think it's decorated from the Panorama H2 object, which deals with escalation.
Yeah.
You can use a phone call, and in this case, mobile devices will be called and be handled by the escalation process. But I don't know. I don't think that alerts and notifications on mobiles are dealing with the escalation object in Panorama.
No, it's worth thinking though that how that could be done, not in the product, but at the application layer. So whoever asked that question, we could work with you on what you want to do with the Panorama remote alarm, because at the end of the day, the alarm status is not held in the mobile device, it's held in the server. So there could just be a button available to you to actually do that. And there's also a custom feature pane within the mobile app that you can add. Those of you that are familiar with Panorama, sort of the sort of equivalent of a user class feature on the mobile device. So I'm pretty convinced in my mind that there's a way of doing that, even though there isn't a function out of the box to it.
Though the alarm window has a built-in dark mode. So if you can share your Panorama H2 application demo, please, Chris, to get the right answer to this question. So there is no real dark mode in the alarm window. So can you go back to the regrouping mode, please? But you are using styles in Panorama H2, which can make some. Yes, this grouping level.
This one?
So
Okay.
everything which is inside the alarm windows can be managed by colors, by labels, by fonts. And so what you would build in a dark mode is inlaid inside this part of the windows, but the footer and the header button is not yet customizable.
So just one thing about dark mode. Dark mode is generally related to ASM. So I encourage people to go and have a look at the Panorama demo and the ASM elements and the way that the ASM standards show you how to present alarms in those.
And as you can see on the screen of Chris, because we have a question, there is a button to remove your custom filters and your parameters. Is the reset button, which is just before the quick filtering text field.
No. This one here. Oh,
yes, the reset button. Yeah, is to
That's
restore configuration. You can reset your configuration as it was on the opening state.
Yeah, basically, if I basically just add this and then I get myself completely lost in what I want to do, then I want to go back to my original state of the alarm. I'll just open everything up. Sorry, I'm going to do a number of clicks for this. There we go. So I want to go back to my default alarm. And, there we go, back to the default display. So nothing's destroyed. You don't permanently overwrite stuff.
So as Chris mentioned, because we got the question, filtering alarm out can be dangerous. It is made clear and obvious that a filter is concurrently applied or not. Could a user-defined indication be added to alert the user a filter is currently active? So we recommend that you have what you see on your screen. There is a bottom banner which deals with the current alarm, which has to be always displayed on your screen, whatever you do, and a second part to select, to filter, to manage, to handle, to analyze your alarms, switching between different modes. Is the right behavior we recommend. And you also access to the properties of the window, which shows you the current status mode which is used. And you can make blinking things on your screen, making a change of the background color according to the current mode which is displayed in the window.
Yeah, in fact, remember the functions and features that we actually show you in the technical demonstration. These are just an example of how these particular functions work. They're not just the only way that you can use them. We're not systems integrators. We're a product manufacturer, and so you can put these functions and features together to get exactly the right user interface, the right user experience that you want. And we certainly recommend that. Hopefully I included when I was talking about this. But you switch modes, particularly from a current alarm mode to a history mode. You've just taken away from the operator to see his current alarms flowing. So you need some other indication on the screen, and that could be as simple as just a big button that flashes when there's a new alarm through. And so there has to be some indication to say, hey, stop what you're doing and go and handle these alarms. That could be another banner, as Julien has suggested, and what we've got in the bottom here. But it could also be flashing icons, which could be related to anything. So you really do need a sort of general purpose part of your HMI to indicate, hey, there's some new alarms, go and deal with
them. Do you see some interesting questions that you can answer, because there are many of them that I can't?
Not sure I fully see the chat widget. So.
Yes. So
receiving the chat messages, you are.
For example, I don't have the answers if we are dealing with security approval in UK. we are dealing with the French agencies, but I don't know if we'd like to, or if we already make actions about cybersecurity approvals in UK.
Yeah, there's no, the French government has particularly gone out of its way to put itself forward as a certification agency. And the equivalent agency here in the UK doesn't. It's just an advisory board. So there's no way you can have exactly the same certification. However, we are talking to the NCSC, and we have some plans to just get them to redo the tests that we've done, because they've apparently opened up a pen testing lab. So we have some aspirations to do that, but there's no certification around that. But we expect if they do the same pen tests, or they do their pen tests against our the work that we've done with ANSI, that the result would be the same. If it's different, then it gives us some more information to go work on.
I got some new questions that I can answer. Will the long-term support channel, LTSC version, work solely on LTSC operating system? The answer is no. What is supported currently with the Panorama Suite 2020 will be included in our LTSC support for the OSCs. Up to until they are not supported by Microsoft. So what is currently supported will be at least up to Microsoft supported. Obviously, Windows 8.1 will maybe stopped before the end of Panorama Suite, so it will be it is currently supported and maybe not be further supported when Microsoft will stop. Can I request a download of Panorama technical demo? It would be easier and really useful for me to become more familiar with the two functions ahead with working on the project. Of course, Panorama Suite 2020 is already available on our support website, on our download. You can download it on our website. Please register on our support and technical website. You will access these new features, the new version of Panorama, the supported version, the previous versions, all updates, frequent asked questions, and of course guidelines to help you to use correctly our software.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, the downloadable version from the technical website is the 64-bit version. We do have a native 32-bit version, like we have with previous Panorama releases. It's not on the technical website, where we believe most people now are using 64-bit versions. So if you want the 32-bit version, you can ask and we will supply it to you. And that also gives us a little bit of extra information of how many people are actually still using 32-bit versions.
That's the end of our webinar. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Julien. And a big thank you to everybody that's taken their time and taken an extra sort of 15-20 minutes as well to stay with the chat session here. So we hope that you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you soon. And again, anybody who wants more information, please contact us via the website, via our email addresses, or give us a call. Thank you very much.
See you soon, Chris. Cheers.
See everybody soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.